BJ from Game Gumbo. I've got my guest here, Patrick Leader from Leader Games, and we're going to get to a game that I was so excited to play. I purchased the game. I don't have it yet. I got it on Tabletop Simulator, Patrick, because I wanted to play it so bad. And we're going to talk about some of those reasons, and that is Fort. It is a changeover from SPQF. Here's what I want to know. So we know that Fort was originally SPQF from Grant Rodiek. What I want to know is, how did it get on your radar? How did you first find out about it?
Yeah, I lobbied against it. I'll tell you right now.
I love it.
That's the best part. Sorry, I didn't really lobby against it. It took some convincing though. So basically, Cole had a copy of SPQF, and he'd bring it by and play it with Nick, one of our now developer, then a graphic designer. He'd play with Nick. It was part of his attempt to get Nick had only played he just got out of college. He's played a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! And some other CCGs.
Yeah.
And so which is awesome to have him on the staff because he knows CCGs live and die in graphic design. That is very important to them, how they communicate information. Each card has to have a lot of information on it that communicates very quickly. So as a graphic designer, as a new graphic designer, it was an easy teach for us. We were communicate these things on this card very quickly. So he kind of studied him on other games, and so SPQF, since it was relatively quick, was a game they'd play over lunch. Nick got a copy somehow. He went on eBay or something like that, won a copy. There's only 1,500 copies of SPQF, I believe. There's not many. I'm always amazed when I run into somebody who owns it. Grant and his girlfriend at the time hand assembled the sets in their house. I mean, they were all produced somewhere, but they had to put all the stuff in the box together. And that was literally the upper limit of that campaign. He was like, I don't want to sell any more of these because everyone we sell past this point, we have to hand assemble. Of course, if he'd have sold 5,000, he could have got a factory to do it for him. So so they would play it, and then I was looking at it, and I was like, wow, this art is, it's anthropomorphic animals. And at some point that crossed into Cole coming to me and saying, what, could there be, Cole or Nick, could there be a way to make this game with our art and to make a root version of SPQF and get it back out there, because there's been this limit on it, how many can be played. There's only 1,500 sets in the world. So if we're able to make it again, we could get it out to a much wider audience. And, I tell you, I played the game and I was lost. The iconography, and
really
he admitted to it that he felt the iconography was pretty weak. And I felt like an old man. I got to the end of the game and I was just like, what is going on?
I've been there. No, Patrick, I've been there. And that's one of the things that I loved about Fort, Steve. This iconography, it's one of those things where you can scan your hand and scan all the, it's not the market, it's the yard, I think it's called. You can scan the hand and the yard. They've got an awesome cheat sheet, which I did have to refer to, Patrick, every once in a while you got to look at that cheat sheet.
Yeah.
But you can scan, it's so well done, so crisp, that you can scan all the cards in seconds. And that's one of the troubles that I have. Look, I'm an older gamer, and one of the things that I have is taking in all this information at one time really quick and processing it. That's just not me. My philosophy in playing card games like this is usually just take the first best opportunity, not the best one, the first best one, the first one that looks good to me, even though the next two are probably better. I'm just going to take it because I don't feel like scanning through these cards. But whoever did the graphic design in this thing, it's not like that at all.
That's Nick.
Yeah. I mean, the card on the right, know that you're going to increase your fort. The card on the left, you're getting resources. The card on the bottom, you're trashing a card. I mean, it's just so well done, Patrick.
Thank you. And so they brought to me, they said, well, if that's what you don't like, give us 2 weeks. We're going to redesign the icons. We're going to redesign we'll put some root art on it. We'll bring it back to you, and then you get to play it. And that, so I was like, well, we're between projects. We got 2 weeks we can risk right now. Let's do it. So they went off and worked on it. He came back with the new design. And I really liked it at that point. And so then we talked about, not really liked it. It was still, I want to give Cole and Nick a lot of credit for selling me this game. So they came
Did the cards have names at that point? Were they already starting to
No, it was
little
just
characters
and otters and
Okay.
So we sat down with it. We had a meeting, and we talked about like what it meant to make a root, like a lighter root game while root was still going on, and what it meant to sell it with a different theme, what it meant to go back to SPQF as a theme, and so on. And the upshot of that conversation was we decided it would live better in its own, in a new universe, which is ironic because we were first picked it because it had anthropomorphic animals.
Right.
And so we
no
looked
animals
around,
in this game, Steve.
and we looked around at Kyle's portfolio because he works for us directly. And we looked at games we had worked on in the past, and we had this game called Camp. That it was like a flicking game I had been working on in like 2018, and that was like, we're like, let's do kids, and then like we got away from the camp theme and made it about a park, and moved on to Fort. I think Kyle just pitched it whole cloth. He said, Kyle or Nick said, let's make it about building a fort. And
this has Kyle's fingerprints all over.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
From start to finish. If you're familiar with Kyle's art in Root or any of the other games, Steve, or anything that he's got on the Leader website, this just looks like him. I mean, it's got all this amazing little kids art. Although I do have one little thing. This is picky, but one little thing: the perk cards and the made-up rule cards. They almost look like a different artist from the main set of cards. The Carlos, who does all the graphic design for us with the Gumbo, this is what he does for a living. And he noticed it right away. He's like, "Wow!" He said, "This is all the same artist." And I said, "As far as I know, it's all Kyle Farron, right?"
I think so. I think maybe Nick could have slipped some drawings in there because of time. But I think even pull one up. Let's take a look.
Yeah, so look at Ghost and then look at the made-up rule.
That's Kyle. He did a different style. That's all.
So here's what my thought was, and we were banning this about on Discord. And my thought was, so the cards themselves are all they represent the kids that are playing. The made-up rules and the perks, that's the kids themselves actually drawing them out. So Kyle dialed it down one more time to say, if the kids were drawing things, if they were drawing a little, a made-up rule, because that's what you do, Steve. You're playing a game and somebody says, no, that's not the rule. This is going to be the rule from now on. That's what this game is. That represents the in-game scoring points that you have. It's like, we made up this rule for this game, and it's only for this game, and you can score these points if you do that. And so the art looks a little bit different from the art in the other ones. And I'd be curious.
It's all Kyle, according to Gates. She's just set it down in the comments. So
I missed that. All Kyle art. Okay, good.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that the art on the main kid cards is a little bit different in style than the art on the perks and the made-up rules. So tell the chat crew, give us the elevator pitch. What is Fort and how do you play it?
Sure. So Fort is we moved on. I'm pretty sure that's not mine.
That was Rap God. Sorry.
Yeah. So it's a deck builder, and the players start out with a deck of 10 cards. The cards tend to have very different functions from each other, and you can play a random set of cards off the top of the deck. You do start with 2 characters based on which kid you are, or you can draft your cards from the deck, which is obviously superior way to play, but you don't want to start that way because you don't know what the cards are worth. And so you're building your deck and you're drafting cards from a common area, like more like Ascension than Dominion, where Dominion you're purchasing from a central area. The rub to me, and the interesting part about it to me, is the suits themselves meld into plays. And so, like, if you go back to
one more.
So some of the cards will have multipliers on them, and so if you can play multiple shovels together, you can get some sort of bonus from that. Or if you can play multiple, so that card, even Dash there. Yeah, so if you look at Dash, you can play multiple skateboards and get multiple pizzas, and then other players can follow your card if they also play a skateboard. So the top action is for all players. The bottom action is the action that only you can take as the player played the card. And you can play them in either order when you play. But the most interesting part about it for me is that if you do build that combo that's just going to annihilate everybody, you can't. Because as you discard cards, the card you didn't use the action of they all go out into a row in front of you, and they're available for the other players to draft off of you. And so when they pick up, you have to pick up a card every turn. You either pick up a card from the park, which is the center. You can top deck a card, or you can take a card from another player. And so in that way, if somebody has a bad combo or a good combo, bad from your perspective, you can start to break up that combo by taking cards away from them. And I think it makes it very enjoyable, because you have to learn to play tactically, and you have to learn to play the situation more so than I feel like in other deck builders. And I love Dominion, don't get me wrong, but in Dominion you can kind of just be like, well, I'm going to play these 3 cards at the beginning of the game, and then you just play those cards and hope you can outdraw your opponent, basically.
Right.
And that's much harder to do in Fort.
So one of the things that we enjoyed about Fort is that mechanic of what cards to leave out. And the other thing I liked about it, I don't know why this is, most of the time when you play deck builders, you're just kind of playing, the card. You don't think about the theme itself. You just think about the mechanics. This reminds me more of Clank, where we got to know, especially our game 2 nights ago, we got to know Ghost and Doc very, very well. Everybody knew when Ghost and Doc were coming on. You never described the card. You always said, I'm playing Ghost. I'm playing Dash. The cards become themselves little characters in this movie that you're building up the forts. And I was wondering, how did that come about, where the cards seem to take a life of their own? What do you think? What's making that happen?
That's all Kyle. He's just a really good visual storyteller. I always find a remarkable about Kyle is he never draws just a person. There is always something happening. There's emotion or an action inside of the card. If you go back to the football player in the previous card, like he's about to throw or he's getting ready to throw. Rusty there is trying to get you to play with his tractor.
Oh, flip a coin.
And she's got her dolls and she's mutilated them by switching their heads, and she controls them and she doesn't want you to play with them. And everything I look at of Kyle's just it just oozes story coming out of it, and that's what I love about working with him.
Why the macaroni sculpture? I'm curious about that. That's the one I didn't quite understand. So the end game, there's a little bit of a bonus if you can get your fort all the way to the top level. You'll grab what's called the macaroni sculpture, and you get a nice little bonus of 4 points. We haven't always gotten the fort, by the way. We've won the game in other ways. There's so many different ways to end the game. I would say it's only come out like once out of every 2 or 3 games. But what was the theory behind the macaroni sculpture?
You'll have to have Nick on and ask him. I don't know the macaroni sculpture. I just saw it and I was like, yes, of course.
Macaroni sculpture.
And those who didn't watch, we were doing a live stream during the lockdown twice a week, and they built a fort on the day that we launched the fort pre-order in the office, and Patty, our other graphic designer, actually made Nick a fort macaroni sculpture and brought it to him. So it's sitting in his office. I haven't been back to the office since I haven't got to see it. But
I don't know if I have the card, Steve, but I want to show you one more card just to see if I can.
I'm looking at the art on those, and I'm wondering if there's any particular inspiration that he drew, because it seems like there's a mix of what could be some kids' cartoon or kids' graphic novel. Like if you had a hybrid of Diary of a Wimpy Kid mixed with Charlie and Lola.
I can't remember that there's a series that they referenced a lot, Kyle and Nick, and was it Recess? Is the name of the show? Someone in chat.
This does look like Recess.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see that.
Help me out here.
Recess. My kids liked Recess. I would never watch that. You know that, Steve.
Yeah.
No, Recess was a good show.
I've not seen all
We
the
saw your eyes light up, BJ. You know exactly what it is.
If you have kids, you watch a lot of Disney Channel, Nickelodeon, all of those.
So, and also,
see that, Steve.
as a little bit of Easter egg, we are all the staff members are in the cards. So
really,
yeah.
I'm gonna have to try to figure out.
And my spouse is also somewhere in there, and I think there's another spouse in there too.
I'm gonna have to check that out. So one of my favorite ones, Steve. So you know, one of the focuses, especially if you're a first-time player, you look at the fort and you go, wow, if I build all 5 sections of the fort, I get a ton of points. Let me focus on that and learn the mechanics of the game. But there is one card that, and it's one of the hidden bonus, one of the scoring cards, and it's something like you have to limit your fort to 2 or 3, and you get a big bonus of cards. And I think it's called minimalization. And the card itself is funny because there's so many different ways that Kyle could go with it. But what he did in this case is the poor kid has this little tiny cardboard box, and he's kind of sitting in his cardboard box. And Steve, if that's not a story to you, everybody's building this big giant. Mom and Dad just got a new refrigerator, and they've got the big refrigerator box, and this guy's got the little tiny cereal box, and he's just sitting in it. But he's going to score some points because he built his fort. So I love the fact that all these cards just tell a story in the game. But, the game has to be more than just graphic design. And I think the fact that it's a tight game, everybody watching everybody else, paying attention to what they're doing, looking at in fact, the last game we played, Patrick, I think we went to the yard, maybe 2 or 3 times during the game. We were just flat out, sniping cards from each other because you learn that I got to take these cards from this person or else that combo is going to keep rolling, or wow, there's that blue card I've been waiting for,
Yeah, and I think an early game that I played with Kyle when we went to XOXO in Portland this year was it turned into us just letting each other just pollute our decks, and so we ended up with these just gigantic decks that were just completely unwieldy. And then we decked the game, and it was a really low score. So a little happened too.
Lovely game. If chat crew, this is one I can definitely enthusiastically endorse. Hit me up if you want to check it out. I'll show the game to you, but you can still get it right on leadergames.com.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, it's I think it technically says pre-order, but it's shipping right now, so it's in order. We do.
Marla has posted a link up there, leadergames.com/products/board. So check it out.
And it's shipping in the US. We sold out in Europe, so we're working on getting more over. I don't know what Gates actually wanted me to officially say about that, but we're getting more over there to sell too. So.